How's it going, everyone? I'm Swinky Games, and today I'm going to try to teach you guys how to do the JFSR, otherwise known as the Just Frame Skyrocket. Okay? So what we're going to go over today is we're going to cover the frame data. We're going to compare the JFSR to the regular Skyrocket. We're going to go over why you should learn it and how to go about learning it. I wanted to make this video because a few of my Discord members have been asking how to learn the JFSR, and I kind of figured that on top of helping them out there, that I could also make this video as like a visual or a more detailed breakdown, as well as not just helping them, but trying to help you guys out as well. If this ends up helping you guys out, or you guys just end up enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing. The more that you guys do, the more that it helps me out. The more that you guys help me out, the more I'll try to help you guys out, and the more of you that I'll be able to try to help out. Okay? Also, I do have a Discord. If you guys would like to come and hang out, play some GGs, get some coaching, or simply just hang out with other great Tekken players, please consider joining me over at my Discord. I will be putting the link in the description below. We would love to have you. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's go over the frame data, the inputs, and we'll kind of compare the Skyrocket to the JFSR. Now, I do want to point out that you do not need to learn the JFSR. We'll get into the reasons why you should learn the JFSR here in a little bit, but I do want to stress that you do not need to learn the JFSR, at least not right away. You can get very, very, very far without knowing how to do it. While we're doing this, I do want to stress that while you are learning the JFSR, it is completely 100% okay to try to throw out regular Skyrocket once every blue moon. If for no other reason than to gain the muscle memory of a combo that you would do in that situation, okay? Because even after you learn the JFSR and you get it fairly consistently, I don't care if you're an execution god. Unless you are doing macros, which shame on you if you are, but to each their own. With that exception, no matter how good you get at the JFSR, you are going to mess it up. At the very, very best, you might get it 9 out of 10 times regularly. And that's kind of stretching it. All right? So do not stress. The Just Frame Skyrocket can be a pain in the butt to learn. All right? I just want to point that out before we even get started. But that is why I'm here, to try to help make things a little easier. Getting back on topic, I apologize, I had to have that little rant. Let's go over the differences. All right? So the very first thing I do want to point out is the input itself. All right? Skyrocket is done by doing the wave dash, which would be forward, neutral, down, down, forward, 4. All right? Whereas the lethal Skyrocket, or Just Frame Skyrocket, is going to be done by pressing forward, neutral, down, forward, 4. So you will skip pressing down by itself. You will not press down by itself. You will press forward and then down, forward next after you let go of forward. And then you will hit 4. Also, the down, forward and the 4 have to be in the same frame. Like so. All right. Now, there are a few possible outcomes while you're learning, or mess ups that can happen. The first notable one is going to be if you see something like this. All right. Now, this just means you're pressing 4 before you hit the down forward. Okay. This just simply means that you got to slow down on pressing the 4 button. That's it. The second is going to be if you see something like this. Oh, my bad. This, not the first one, this one. Now, in this case, you'll notice that I pressed down forward and then I hit 4. So this means that I'm pressing down forward first, all right? So I just gotta either slow down on pressing down forward, or I need to hit 4 sooner. And the last option, and this is iffy, but I've seen it and I've done it, so I do want to cover it, is this. So in this case, this just simply means that you are rushing it too much and you did not let go of forward, or when you did, you didn't move your thumb enough, essentially, if you're on the controller. So it just means you got to slow it down a little bit. That's going to be the difference in input. All right. Now let's go over the frame data. Now, this is probably the biggest and #1 reason why you're going to want to learn the JFSR after you learn the Skyrocket, essentially, which is going to be that the Skyrocket is -18 on block. What does that mean? If I do forward, neutral, down, down, forward, 4, and my opponent is aware of its frames, I can be launch punished. Now, the JFSR is -8 on block, which means not only is it not launch punishable, it's not even punishable. Okay? It's safe, completely safe. So that's probably the #1 reason why you would probably want to learn the JFSR over the regular Skyrocket. Also, whereas the regular Skyrocket can be launch punished, even if they don't punish you, there is 0 pushback on block. Whereas with the lethal Skyrocket, it's nothing to rely on, and you probably shouldn't chance it very often, but it has enough pushback to where if you do, say, a backdash, you might get out of a lot of people's range for their down forward 2s. For example, which means you might be able to back up out of the way and then punish them with your own down forward 2. Again, this isn't anything to rely on. It's just something that becomes possible. When it comes to your Skyrocket versus the JFSR, generally your combos are going to be easier, more consistent, better wall travel, and more often than not, beefier damage. Not always. You can still get pretty good damage with Skyrocket by itself, but generally it'll be easier to get bigger damage, if that makes sense. And we'll go over that here in a little bit. Generally after a Skyrocket or a just frame Skyrocket, you're typically gonna want to follow up with the Backlash. All right? That's the best follow-up that you can do. You don't have to do that, but it's typically the best. After your Skyrocket, it's not uncommon to see something like that happen, where you might not even motion switch at all. Or if you do, you get like the first kick of while he's in right foot forward. And that's not something you want. So you're kind of forced to slow it down. Whereas after the JFSR, you can more or less motion switch immediately. And it's pretty consistent overall. Also, this is something you guys may have noticed, maybe you didn't, but even optimally, see, I'm messing it up right now, huh? You'll notice that he does go fairly high, but his feet are maybe about where my head is, about head level. That's not too bad, right? It's a pretty good amount of time to follow up with, correct? However, and you'll notice it was about 43 frames. You see how much higher he is right now? He is definitely above my head. Which just means, in general, even if it's only by a couple frames, you have that much more time to follow up with whatever attacks you want. What also happens in that situation is that there are some follow-ups that are not possible if you don't do the Blue Sparks version. For example, my favorite follow-up after a JFSR is a quick dash into up 3. If I do not get the Blue Sparks, this is not possible. As you can see, it's just not possible. All right? So then I have to alternate what I would end up doing. So why am I stressing about this right now? So while you're learning the JFSR, you should still practice and use the regular Skyrocket. Because, as I kind of mentioned before, no matter how good you get at the JFSR, you are going to mess it up. So, for those times where you do mess it up, but you manage to hit them with the regular Skyrocket, it's best to know what your best options are. For example, my favorite option something of that nature. Now you'll notice I only got about 63 damage, but it's the overall follow-ups that I can get from that situation. So, not the greatest amount of damage, but I still managed to get something. And in doing this version, I can still get like a heat ender. I can get them to the wall and get a pretty decent amount of damage overall. And again, that's not the most optimal damage. To get more optimal damage, you have to be willing to take a risk. For example, I got a little bit more damage in that situation, but the problem is that if I didn't do all of this exact, a lot of this can drop. As you can see, I didn't even make it to the wall. There's not a whole lot I could have added in there to make it possible. That time I got 84 damage, pretty decent. So again, you just gotta kind of come up with a combo that works for you, that is consistent. What I would avoid is once you get to the point where you are doing the JFSR pretty regularly, I would not do a follow-up that is the Backlash. If you actually end up getting the main attack. The reason being, and you guys have already seen me do this a few times already, because I'm so used to doing it faster. Because again, after the JFSR, you can motion switch immediately. Whereas after the JFSR, you have to wait a little bit. So, that right there is why I would advise against a Backlash follow-up. Because you're going to be so used to how fast you're doing it after a JFSR that you're going to end up messing it up when you mess up the JFSR. If that makes sense. I apologize if that was a little too much. But the main idea here is that overall, it's just going to be a lot more consistent and easier if you come up with something different. For example, this is my combo. Again, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it gets pretty decent wall travel overall. It gets me about mid 60s to 70s, and I can essentially do whatever I want, assuming that, you know, I don't drop it. But for the most part, that's easy for me. So you just got to find what works for you. And always practice that even while you're learning the JFSR so that you have something consistent. Okay? And then, as I mentioned before, learning the JFSR, if I can get it, learning the JFSR just allows for, like, situations where you might be able to get to the wall. See that damage? Before I was getting, what, 80s? Granted, I got to the wall, but the entire point was before I wasn't even able to get to the wall. And when I did get to the wall, I got to, what, 80 damage? Maybe a little above 80? So that's the idea, is that because I was able to get that little bit of extra wall travel a little easier overall, I was also able to make it more damaging at the same time. And keep in mind, I'm just using a regular DualShock PS5 controller. I'm not using a stick or macros or anything like that, so, you know, it just takes practice. So real quick, before we get into how to learn to do the JFSR, let's do a quick rundown of why you should learn the JFSR. And again, I cannot stress this enough. You do not need to learn how to do the JFSR. However, when you get to the point where you do want to learn the JFSR, it's best to try to learn it maybe when you're about red ranks, so that by the time you get to the higher ranks, you should have a little bit more of a consistent situation when it comes to the JFSR. If you're a Fujin, for example, just trying to learn the JFSR, you're probably going to have a harder time figuring out when to use it. So definitely try to learn to use it sooner if you can. But either which way, remember, you do not need to learn the JFSR. It is a tool. It is nice. You ultimately gain more freedom with your character by learning it. In my opinion, that's like top 3 reasons why you should learn it. Just once you learn this move, you essentially have every move in Hwoarang's arsenal at your disposal, and then you just got to decide what tools you like and which tools you're going to use. It makes it a lot easier versus the tools you like and the tools you want to use, but one of those tools you want to use, you don't know how to do. So a little bit of a difference. But you're also going to want to learn it because it's safe because the JFSR is safe on block, whereas the regular Skyrocket is launch punishable on block. There is that very, very minor pushback on block that might allow you to back up from potential follow-ups. Again, that's nothing to rely on, but it is an option. It allows for some pretty consistent, easier combos that allows for easier potential wall travel and better damage, which overall means that your comeback potential has significantly increased, especially when you can take a move that is punishable, launch punishable, and make it completely safe. So if it does get blocked, you're not gonna get blown up for it. Okay? And then the last kind of reason is with characters like Kazuya, Reina, Heihachi, and Devil Jin, they all have a move that is the exact same input. It's one option to do, which is their electric. There's like 3 or 4 different ways to do their electrics. This is one of them. You can hit forward, neutral, down, forward, 2 to do an electric. So if you learn to do the JFSR, you just learned how to do the electrics with all 4 of those other characters. For example, how do you go about learning the JFSR? Well, first off, as I mentioned before, learn to do the regular skyrocket and learn to do a combo on both sides. So that would be on the left side and the right side of your opponent. So that when, not if, when you mess up the JFSR, but you still hit the opponent with a regular skyrocket, you have something to follow it up with. For example, as you can see, I got something consistent, pretty easy to do. Almost got about 80 damage. If I would have alternated a little bit, I could have done something different, but I still got something, which is the point. I got something that was fairly easy for me to do, and I was able to follow up despite the fact that I messed up. That is step 1. Practice your regular skyrocket. Step 2 is going to be go into right foot forward. Why have I not mentioned this before now? And that is because, in my opinion, this is not something to rely on long term. All right. Once you learn to do the JFSR even in left foot forward, then this is still an option to do. However, while you're learning the JFSR in left foot forward, this is a very, very solid way to kind of get your foot in the door, and it will allow you to practice some combos while you're getting the hang of it. When you are in right foot forward, the down forward and the 4 do not have to be in the same frame. As you can see, I hit forward and then neutral, and then the down forward I definitely hit first. And then I hit down forward 4. All right. Even if I exaggerate the down forward a little bit, you can actually see Hwoarang do a dash. So you can see I'm holding down forward for a quick second. So it ultimately makes doing the JFSR a little bit easier, and it kind of gives it more range. So if you can do the JFSR easier in right foot forward, why bother learning it in left foot forward at all? The answer to that is fairly simple. First of all, I like to do stupid stuff like this in the middle of a match. And it's nice to know that I have the option to do the JFSR whenever I want. I could do it right there when I was in right foot forward. I could do it right there when I was in left foot forward. It did not matter. I always had access to that move. For example, I know I was just showing off there, my fault. But my point being is that you will always have access to that move. All right? Also, say your opponent does something and you know that you could either punish it with a JFSR or you can at least follow up with it to maybe get something. You can potentially get some really nice damage. For example, as you can see, I was even able to get a punish with JFSR in that situation. That's very, very rare. And there are very few and far between moves where that is possible. But it's the fact that it is now possible for me to punish a person that uses that string with a JFSR, potentially taking half their life or taking all of it, depending on where I am and what I do. All because they wanted to use a string of this magnitude. As you can see, it's not too difficult. You're probably going to mess it up a few times. But the fact that it becomes possible, they use the move that's typically safe. And I just got over 90 damage because they used a move that I could do that with. So, it's definitely a little bit more to it than that. But overall, that's why you would still want to learn it in left foot forward. Once you get to that point, you'll go into right foot forward. And again, you want to practice this on both sides. So practice it on one side, change sides with your opponent, and practice it on the other side. What I would do is sets of 10, kind of like you're working out. If you've ever been to a gym, you do like, 5 reps, and you do, or how do they put it? 5 sets of 5 reps or something of that nature. So, and you'll take like maybe 30 seconds of a break, just put the controller down or whatever. In this case, you're gonna do maybe 3 sets of 10. So you're gonna go into right foot forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You see, I still mess it up, but you still count it because it's an attempt. All right. It does not matter if you only get it once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Doesn't matter. You try it 10 times. If you get it, I would say at first you might get it 3 times. Your first go. You might get it 3 times. That's fine. You might not get it a single time. That's still fine. As long as you're actively practicing, you will get there. Once you can get this about 7 times out of 10, then start practicing your combos. So, get into right foot forward. Again, both sides. About 7 out of 10 times. All right. Then go into right foot forward. Do your JFSR. Do a combo. Whatever it works, it doesn't not matter. It doesn't have to be super damaging. Just get something. Even that works. All right. So get a combo, practice it, practice it, practice it. All right. It does not matter what it is, because at this point, you can at least start taking right foot forward JFSR into a match. All right. At least practice trying to get them with a JFSR once every blue moon. Take it into quick match though. Don't go into ranked. Quick matches or against your friends. Just practice again. Practice on them. Maybe you hit it once, then you do a combo. Practice just like when you were just doing the JFSR by itself. Do 5 sets of 10. So, this is why I say probably just do an easy combo. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got it 10 times. Once you get to the point where you have done your combo 10 times, take it into a match. Okay? Now, when I say when you can get to the JFSR and right foot forward 7 times out of 10, you're ready to take it into a match. Because when you take it into a match, first of all, your opponent's probably going to block it a few times. And then there's still going to be those handful of times where you're going to try it and a different move is going to come out. So you're looking, so if you get it 7 out of 10 times in practice, you might get it twice, if you're lucky, in an actual match. And that's if you can even figure out where to put it. So that's why it's like tricky. But then you come up with your combo so that when you do get it, you have something, you know, experiment, come up with different, you know, combo stuff, combo routes, so that that mid-60s damage can turn into 80 damage. When you think you're ready to start trying to tackle the left foot forward version, go back to your right foot version, have him stand block. Now this time, you're just gonna do it 5 times, all right? Make sure you're kind of looking at your command history while you're doing this. So, 1 time, okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can tell by watching my command history that I got the actual input 3 out of 5 times. Once you see that you're getting it, I would say 2 out of 5 times, then move up to 10. And again, watch your command history. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I can tell you that I got the actual input 8 times out of those 10. But more often than not, especially starting out, you might get it 4 out of 10 times. So get to the point where, just like before, you're getting the actual input 7 out of 10 times. And again, now you don't actually have to listen to this part. Like, if you get it 5 out of 10 times and you're feeling pretty good, then try it in left foot forward, you know, but 7 out of 10 times means that you're at least hitting it more than half the time. All right. 6 out of 10 times also means that, but 7 out of 10 times means that it's consistently more than half the time. All right. So going to right foot forward, just keep practicing it over and over again. Once you get it down, once you get to the point where you are comfortable, again, my recommendation is 7 out of 10 times. But once you get to that point, then practice your left foot forward version. Now again, more often than not, you're going to see this. Or this. Or this. And every now and again, you might even see this. You just have to analyze what you are doing wrong and fix it. Now, if you're doing this more often than not, which is probably what's gonna happen, especially if you've been practicing on the right foot forward version, then there's a small little trick that I have learned that can help make it more consistent. Now, keep in mind that once you get comfortable with the JFSR, throw this out the window. Because once you get to the point where the JFSR is consistent, if you use this method, you will mess it up more than you were before. All right? Now, the trick is to imagine that you are hitting the 4, you're trying to hit the 4 before the down forward, even just barely. All right? So just imagine that you're trying to hit the 4 before the down forward. All right? Now, again, and then just try to do it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got it 2 out of 5 times. That's great. So I would suggest 3 out of 5. Because what's 3 out of 5? When multiplied by 2, that's 6 out of 10. All right? So then you try it 10 times. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What was that? 5, 6 times out of 10? It's pretty decent. And again, just like before, once you get it 7 times out of 10, my suggestion is 7. Because when you go into a match, they're going to be blocking, they're going to be moving, and when you do try it, you're probably going to mess it up. So if you try it, say 10 times, you might, in an actual match, you might hit twice. It's just one of those things that can happen. It's probably going to happen. So when those 2 times that does happen, where it comes out and the opponent doesn't block it, you're going to feel pretty good about it, And again, just like with the right foot forward version, once you get to the point where you're comfortable trying to do the JFSR in left foot forward, then again, give it a shot. Do it 5 times, but when you hit the JFSR, try to do a combo. So that's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4. That's 5. If you're not comfortable, if you don't like that, then get that last one in. You just keep practicing this over and over and over again. So that when you do end up getting the JFSR against a moving opponent, you'll just instinctually do your combo. But make sure the combo isn't so hard that you might drop it out of excitement, because it's great if you could do a combo that does 107 damage. That's great. That's fantastic. It doesn't matter if you end up dropping it, because you got too excited, lag, whatever. So do a very easy and consistent combo. It doesn't matter if it does a lot of damage or a little damage. Some damage is better than none, and it's definitely better than dropping the combo. So definitely get that practice in. And that is really all you can do. Past that, it's really going to take time. And I will tell you, as I mentioned right at the beginning of the video, this can be a pain in the butt to learn. And you're going to get frustrated. There are going to be times where you're going to want to turn the game off. There might be days where your thumb is a little sore. It's going to suck sometimes. For some people might learn a little bit faster than others, and you may not encounter some of those. People like me, I dealt with that when I was learning. Other people have dealt with worse. It just is what it is. But if you practice and you stay dedicated, I promise you will get there. It's a little bit difficult to explain when to use it. However, one minor thing that I do enjoy doing, and this will be especially after you've learned to do it in left foot forward, but there is a couple moves that kind of make it an exception. If you like are doing it in right foot forward, imagine trying to do it after a certain move hits. For example, forward, forward 3. It's +6, so if your opponent jabs, they're going to interrupt you, but the idea is the sequence here. Do forward, forward 3, and then do JFSR. Because after forward, forward 3, you're in right foot forward. So then you just do the JFSR because you're doing the easier version. And you practice doing situations like that. Side step 4. Left flamingo stance, back 3. On hit, back 3 is +14 on block or on hit. So if you learn the timing, this isn't even interruptible. So, and kind of come up with like your own, I guess, setup where, say after a move, you just throw it out. Later on down the line, you might find out that that setup is not ideal, but at least right now while you are learning, don't worry about that, okay? Just practice doing a setup or whatever you feel comfortable doing. Side step 4, back 3 from left flamingo stance, forward 2, forward, forward 3, situations like that. The idea is set up and then do the move. And almost think about them being one move. You're just adding the extension at the end. So every single time that this back 3 hits, I try to do Backlash, or I try to do JFSR. If it gets blocked, I don't do JFSR. If it hits, then I do JFSR. Now, that sounds really weird, but eventually you'll get to the point, because you've recognized that situation so many times, that when you hit them, you will do the JFSR. And when they block it, you will stand there. You will get to that point. I'm not saying use that move specifically because it is punishable. That's my thing. You don't have to take it. But you find a move, then you do JFSR afterwards. Figure out, the conditions, your own conditions, and then stick with it. And do it to the point where every single time you try JFSR. That way, at least there's a situation for you where you do the move and you find your own opening for the JFSR. If that makes sense. Unfortunately, that's really it as far as how I can tell you when to use it in a match. Otherwise, you just kind of got to feel it out and kind of determine that for yourself. I do apologize if that was a long explanation. It's just to explain that is really difficult. So hopefully that helped you guys out. I apologize if it didn't. But with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and call it there. All right. What did we learn today? We learned the frame data. We compared it to the regular skyrocket. We talked about why you should learn it, how to learn it, and we kind of talked about how to use it. Kind of. Again, can't really tell you how to use it. I can just tell you how to learn it. The rest you got to kind of do on your own. I apologize. But with all that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Hopefully this helped you guys out. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys checking my video out. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care of yourselves. Happy gaming and peace.